So, okay. Okay. So, why I have written the toughest way is because we will sessions no. We will be taking one scenario into picture, means like one problem statement into picture, and then we will be checking how can we solve that problem statement with the tools that we can use to automate those problem statements. Okay. So, but obviously, for before starting anything, we definitely need some background into cloud. So, because we revolve around cloud now, whatever automation, whatever things we do, mostly in DevOps, so it's completely surrounded by cloud. Mostly, there are very few places where you will see the DevOps culture to be followed for the on-premises environment. So, if we talk about DevOps, means what is DevOps? What do you understand by DevOps? Let me just hear from you first. So what exactly do you mean by DevOps? Just anything, whatever you know about it. Just tell me that. Yes, this is the very common statement most people answer. So get a call for any job profile or anything, any job opening. So what happens if you have mentioned DevOps in your profile, okay, but you know means what exactly DevOps is. Exactly means it is a bridge. Means what happens? See, development and operations team when they are working completely in isolation. So the communication is very poor between them. So what happens? The project deliverables, whatever the deliverables are there. So what happens? So there is like a big gap between these two teams, operations and the development team. So to bridge the gap between them, DevOps comes into play. So they completely they have almost solved the long pertaining problem, which was like the release cycle, the whatever, suppose there is an application, we want to move it to production. So what earlier it used to take months and months of time, which has reduced to almost a week now. So every week there are new features getting released for particular application or for particular product. So how is it possible now? The only thing which has made it possible is the DevOps culture that we are following now. So that because it is bridging the gap between Dev and Ops team, there is no longer complete dependency on any of the person, means on any particular team. The dependency they have completely means removed that dependency. That okay, if suppose I need a test environment. Suppose you are from development background, you will say that I need a test environment. Can operations team please help me with getting the test environment ready? So they will take almost 1 to 2 days to install everything, another 2 days to perform complete quality check. So everything, like at least a week it takes to give you a test environment. But so now what happens, they simply give you a job where they give you just run access or execute access. You just run the job, your environment is ready, you get the ID, password and everything on mail, even the machine details. So now suppose if we talk about performing testing for small modules of application. So earlier we used to need the entire testing server, web server to complete the web application testing and all. So now that particular problem has also been solved by using containers, application containers. So where Docker, there are other players as well to compete with Docker, but more widely used one is Docker. Okay, so suppose now you are also spinning up containers, you are creating many containers, but how about orchestrating them? How about managing them? How about if a container goes offline, you want another container coming online quickly? So then Kubernetes comes into picture. So these orchestration means like, okay, you are spinning up an environment. Suppose we have spun a container where you will be deploying your small application and you will be testing it. No, it's not scheduling. Orchestration is not scheduling. Orchestration is, if we talk about orchestration, Then suppose there is one small container that you want to perform testing into, or suppose you have a container in your prod environment. What if that container goes down? Container as in a very small, you can call it as operating system itself, the entire server itself. Within that small container, you have your entire server, your operating system, all your libraries, dependency, and everything is there in that container. You are just deploying your application. But what if that container goes down? You want something which will make that container come up again, spin another container, or suppose you want to scale your application now. With one container, you cannot sustain the heavy traffic that is coming in. So you want multiple replicas of containers. So how will that be managed? You need networking between the containers. So you can't keep going and developing the network connection. You can't keep going and spinning up one container at a time whenever scaling is required. You need automatic scaling. You need high availability. So all these things comes under orchestration. So what is orchestrating them? Kubernetes is orchestrating them. So that is when Kubernetes comes into picture. So all these are kind of DevOps technologies. So, and if you ask me that, okay, do we just keep clicking and then doing everything manually? That is also manual. So I'll say no, everything like, now if you work as a DevOps engineer, your task will not be to, okay, orchestration is like whenever you have an application deployed in container as in a small instance of your application that is not running in one complete VM, but that is running in one small container in one VM. Okay. So now you want your container to be highly available. You want it to be automatically scalable, be it upward scaling, be it downward scaling, anything. You want its network to be really easily, means you can easily manage the network. So everything, whichever requirements you have for a particular application, be it high availability, be it networking, everything starting towards the infrastructure, whatever you can think of, which makes your application highly available, highly redundant. So we need to make sure that those things we should not be doing. We need to like automatically they should happen. So it's like orchestrating them. So what is the tool which is orchestrating them? As in managing them automatically without your intervention. So that is where we call, that is the word used, orchestration, for all these things. So there are many tools. If we talk about, like, we have created some scripts for automating the infrastructure or deployment or anything, we have scripts, we have automate configuration coordination. Exactly, you have got it very correctly now. So I broke everything and explained you. So that is what means almost each and every aspect of the application. Container. Okay, container is like, if you remember earlier when we used to develop an application for testing or for deployment, we used to use one complete virtual machine, right? So what was the overhead with virtual machines? The overhead was, we have to, before installing the application, we had to install the dependencies, suppose .NET libraries or JDK. So we had to install all the dependencies. We had to make the environment compatible with the application that will be running. So what happens to, and also completely one VM we had to use. Spinning up the VM was another task. It used to take long time. Scaling it up, another tedious task. Okay, orchestration, it depends. If you are orchestrating the containers, Kubernetes is there. Yeah, Kubernetes is there. There are other tools as well in market, but Kubernetes is the most widely used tool currently. So very rarely you will see companies not mentioning Kubernetes when they are looking for a DevOps engineer. Very rarely you will see. So they mostly mention Kubernetes. Okay, so a container, as I was saying, container. So what happens, like web server you needed, in one web server you hardly used to deploy, even if your application is very small, you used to have one complete web server for it, which is not required. You have to install all the dependencies. So there was a lot of overhead induced with all those activities. So all those have been now eliminated with the use of container technology. So what is container? It's like, suppose you want to deploy your application. You don't need, if you have a very small application, you don't need the entire web server now. You will have one server, it will have one runtime, as in underlying engine where the container will be running. So Docker is there. So Docker CLI will be there, which will be the runtime for the containers. So, and container is created from image, which will have all the dependencies, all the libraries, all the binaries, whichever you need for your application, even the operating system or the light operating system that you need, either Ubuntu Lite or means the light version of all the operating systems, which you can use for containerizing. So each and everything you create in one image file. So your image file has everything, and to that image file, you will be passing your application's entire code repo, wherever it is, to use in that image file. So once everything is ready, you spin up the container, your complete application is now up and running, but not in entire virtual machine, in one small container within that virtual machine. So it's like virtualization of virtual machine itself. Okay. Yeah. So this is how, if you see, this is how the trend is changing. People are completely moving away from owning the infrastructure. They don't want to own the infrastructure now. So they are completely moving away from that. So they are not even ready to use their own premises infrastructure as well. They are completely moving to cloud. So when they are moving to cloud, they don't want to go ahead and keep clicking and doing things. They want to automate everything. So what happens now? Suppose if I want to create an environment in cloud for myself, suppose an entire infrastructure environment, starting from web server to almost everything, even container, whatever. What I will do, I will just create it depends which tool you will be using. Suppose for this, the best tool that we use is Ansible, because it uses push configuration. So there are other tools as well, Chef, Puppet, Salt. So these are configuration management tools. Now, what is configuration management? Suppose now you have a machine, your laptop itself, it's your company laptop. So now your machine needs some software to be installed. So you'll go to IT team, they will install application in that. So rather than that, what happens, we have already the policies defined in the configuration management tool that this particular machine needs to have the software. So it will get pushed automatically. But how to do that automatically? We have written playbooks in Ansible. We have written everything, all the scripts. But who will run those scripts? So there comes another level of orchestration of creating the job, scheduling them, managing the entire infrastructure. So there comes another level of orchestration where tools like Jenkins or Azure DevOps, so these kind of tools are used, Terraform, so these kind of tools are used. Handle changes and maintain integrity. Yes, correct. So this is how the DevOps, and let me tell you that DevOps is not only like infrastructure automation. It also comes into application deployment automation, like for that particular piece, if we talk about, like test from starting from pushing the code to repository, to creating the build, to testing. Okay, so if we talk about application deployment, so starting from very first, starting from pushing the code to repo, to build, to test, to deploying into staging, and then to production. These entire stages, whichever are there in between. So now everything has been like automated in one single pipeline. Though production is not handled in one single pipeline, even if it is handled, there is some precaution taken that if someone is approving it after checking all the test results, then only allow it in production. So this is like the entire application life cycle. So this also comes under DevOps. So if when you are getting trained in DevOps, you need to make sure that which particular path you want to follow. You want to follow the infrastructure automation part, or you want to follow the application deployment automation part, as in CI/CD, the entire application part. So there are these two types of fields that we can choose. So it completely depends on you which field you choose. So if somebody asks you, like if you get a job call, so we are looking for a DevOps engineer. So we have these requirements. So you need to know that, okay, which is my skill set, in which DevOps field I am working, or I am getting trained in, or I want to move in. Okay, so let me show you the entire PPT, what I have for you. Okay, so we will go through what is DevOps. Then I'll showing you something about cloud, some introduction on cloud, which we need for this course. Then about version control, we need to keep the code somewhere. So there will be version control coming in, where I'll be covering Git. Then we will be coming to containerization, as we talked about. Docker will come into picture. Then we will come to configuration management, where we will be covering Ansible, okay, Puppet. These two tools we will be covering up. Okay, this will be the DevOps part. Okay, we will just list down some of the things, what DevOps is, how companies look to DevOps, why everything is moving to DevOps. So comparing it with traditional methods. So this will be the first module that we'll be covering up. Then obviously we need some knowledge of cloud before moving to the course. So we will be getting introduced to AWS in this module. Okay. So setting up the lab environment and everything. Obviously, and at the end of each module, there will be assignments, which I'll be expecting you to complete. And if you face any doubt, you can obviously ask me in the next module. Yeah. Second module will be again a version control, where we will be covering Git. Okay, some branching techniques of Git, some of the commands in Git. So this we will be resolving some conflicts in Git. Suppose if we are stuck with some conflicts, then some conflicts in Git, resolving them. So these things will be covering. Okay. So this is about version control. Third module will be containerization, as we talked about Docker containers. So that will be the third module. We will see what containers are. We'll spin up a container. We'll check into the storage concepts of containers. Suppose you want to store some data, you want some data to be persistent, even if the container is getting killed. So how we will check into all those things, some network requirements of container. So all those things we will be covering up. Okay, so this is all about Docker that we'll be watching. And then comes the module 4, where we will be talking about configuration management, where we'll be covering Ansible. So Ansible will be the tool which we will be covering maximum, because in configuration management, we really cannot go deep dive into all the tools. Even not all the tools we will be going into deep dive. Even in Ansible, we will not deep dive, because we need to cover other modules as well. If we talk about today getting trained in DevOps, so it will be like one problem statement, its solution using the tools that we will learn. One problem, second problem statement, then the solution. This will be the method that we will be following. So that is the reason we will not be able to go into depth in any of the tools. So if you want to go into depth into any of the tools, then again, for one tool, the training module is for around 12 to 14 hours. So that is a completely into different picture. Okay. So it completely depends on you, how you want to go ahead after completing this. So this is about configuration management, Ansible. Then we will be looking into Puppet as well. So these two tools we will be covering up. So we will also check what is the difference between Puppet and Ansible. We will check Puppet's architecture. So whichever like tool we will be covering up, we will also be looking into some of the concepts, some of the terminologies of that tool. Yes, yes, of course. Puppet and Ansible both are for configuration management. So for configuration management, we will be looking into two tools, Puppet and Ansible. Then comes, okay. Then we will look in module 5, when we have learned configuration management, when we have learned, what do you say, containers. So when we have learned all those things, we know about cloud. Then we will come into how we look into CI/CD pipeline, where we will check, build test and deploy will be there for build part. Okay, manual versus automated deployment, setting up the web server and database server. So all these things, how we do in cloud. So all these things we will be not at all be doing manually. Everything we will be doing using the configuration management tool. Okay, everything we will be doing it in automated way. So as we will be going through a DevOps, when we come into this module, we will definitely go into the concepts of everything. So you need not worry about that. So just remember one thing, when we are into DevOps training, I will not at all expect you to do anything manually here. Okay, so please remember that nothing we will be doing manually. We will have scripts for everything. Scripts as in we will have playbooks in Ansible or manifest in Puppet. Okay, I will also teach you some part of PowerShell when we will touch into Azure. That we will definitely talk about when we get into the module for configuration management. You really need not worry about that. It's a kind of like a playbook. If we talk about it, is those we write in Ansible. So another word as in like manifest. Okay, playbook is related to Ansible. Okay, playbook is related to Ansible. They are set of plays that we use, that we execute to perform any task. And manifest, they are related to Puppet. As there are plays in Ansible, there are manifests in Puppet. This is how they work. And you will be getting extra edge when we will be studying Ansible. Why? Because you know Python, and Ansible playbook is completely Python based. We use dictionary lists and dictionaries in Ansible. So you will get much more interested into Ansible when we start learning it. Yes, we automate the infrastructure or the container creation, everything using the playbooks. Okay. So this is build, test, and deploy. Continuous integration. Now, when we have when we know how the build tool works, when we know how the deployment works, so now we really can't go ahead and keep building manually or keep deploying the infrastructure manually, whatever. We really can't do that. We need to automate that part as well. It should be like we should be clicking once and our entire infrastructure should get deployed, or our entire application should get tested right from build to test. So that is where we will be using continuous integration tool, which is Jenkins. Okay. So that is when we will learn about Jenkins. So that is the end, because when you have learned Jenkins, then you have learned okay, I think I forgot to mention one particular module here. So pardon me. There will be one more module related to monitoring, where we will be learning about Grafana and some another monitoring tools as well. Because see, as a DevOps engineer, your task is also to set up monitoring. Okay, you have created playbooks, you have created everything, you have automated everything, you have created jobs. What about checking those jobs, if they are running or not? What about checking the entire environment, whether the environment is up or not? What about that? So we have to take care of monitoring as well. DevOps is not only automating, it's also about monitoring. Monitoring is also one of the responsibility. Not sit and monitor, rather set up the monitoring. That is what DevOps engineer does. Okay, so there will be another module 7, module 6. 6th will be monitoring. 7th will be continuous integration at last. Okay, so then we will have one very interesting project. And when we are done with almost everything, then we will come into project. So I have given you the real-time project here. Whichever I have mentioned here, it's a real-time project. So as in the project that I have already worked in my organization. So that is what I have listed down here. So once you have completed this project, you will, I think, be certified from Technovids. Once you have done certification, I will also be it's not like exam certification, or you will be said a certified DevOps trainer, DevOps engineer. It's not like that. Because to be true, there is no such certification called as DevOps as of now. There is no such certification, hardcore certification for DevOps. So it will be like how to prepare your CV. So how to get prepared for the interview. Almost everything I'll be covering after you are done with project. You can also come up with your own project too. So the project that I have listed down is the one that I was when I got introduced to DevOps and when I was selected as a DevOps engineer in one of the company. So this is the first project that I worked on. Means almost 6 to 7 months I completed all these projects.